used to cook for a living in restaurants in Wellington and Auckland and Sydney and London, which I did for 16 years, but eventually my legs said that's enough and I had to make a change, so now I'm a full-time potter, but I still love to talk and eat and cook food. Today what I want to talk about is some of the times I've spent in parts of the Middle East, particularly Syria and Jordan. In Syria, because we see it on the news so much these days and it's looking so smashed up, but I've holidayed there 4 times now, and every time I come away I feel full of inspiration and flavours and adventures and smells. And that's the Syria I want to talk about today. So, hit it, Fabio. Back in 1993, I took up a volunteer's position in Taiba village in Jordan. Taiba is a 12-kilometre drive away from the ancient city of Petra along a cliff which overlooks a spectacular valley or wadi. The landscape provides an epic backdrop, and during my time at Taiba, I often thought that such scenery could easily inspire religious belief. The job was as an assistant to an English potter, Jim Mason, who'd set up a small pottery school in the village. Jim had previously helped excavate an old kiln at Petra and had become the go-to man for how to make replicas of Nabatean pottery. He wanted to give this knowledge back to the community, so with the help of a local charity, it was decided that 6 young women from the village would come to Jim's house 5 days a week to learn, and I was to smooth the gap between Western men and Jordanian girls. Because our students were young women, there were times when cabin fever and concentrated female energy needed an outlet. So we'd go for drives in the pickup to source local clays in order to expand our colour palette. It was an excuse to explore the local landscape, and the digging especially helped clear out any cobwebs. The girls were curious and gossipy and really lovely. They took me under their wing. They introduced me to their families and often brought gifts to the house, like boxes of fresh figs or meals to share. We picked olives and pomegranates, and we baked bread on hot stones in a pit. And I was shown how to make mensaf, which is a traditional celebratory meal, served on a huge round dish which everybody sits around on the floor and eats from with their hands, a bit like we might eat fish and chips on a parcel on the floor. Mensaf's made by breaking down a whole animal, usually a goat or 1 or more chickens, and stewing the pieces in a big pot with crumbled dried yoghurt, which is what this is, and later rice and saffron. And on top go toasted nuts, which are normally almonds or the biggest pine nuts you've ever seen, and fresh herbs. From Jordan, it's easy to get to a number of other, to me, exotic countries. My favourite means of travel is via the service or shared taxi. From Amman in Jordan to Damascus in Syria, it's about US $15 a person. You can pay for all 5 seats in the cab if you don't want to share with the chain-smoking locals. But they can be really good fun, and you're going to have a hard time talking your driver out of smoking, no matter what you do. In 2004, my brother and a girlfriend came to Syria and Lebanon with me, so of course I took them to the Souk al-Hamadiyya in Damascus. The very high ceiling of the souk's peppered with bullet holes, which gives the effect of a magical starry night. The holes reputedly came from machine gun fire from French planes in 1925. About halfway along one of the main streets in the souk is the famous Mastic Ice Cream shop. It's easy to find because of the crowd that's always gathered outside. The sticky ice cream, or booza, is made with sahlib flour from ground orchid tubers and flavoured with almonds, rosewater and mastic, which is the resin of a plant in the pistachio family, and then on top go ground pistachio nuts. My Scottish mate Ralph used to call Jordan and Syria land of smells, which weren't always nice. They might be fresh tar or dead animals or blocked sewage. But in the markets, the fragrance is that of ground spices, cardamom flavoured coffee, or sage and peppermint tea, or perfume, or smoking resin on hot coals, maybe frankincense for the hubble bubble pipes. Everywhere you go, people are making things in front of you or peddling their produce in an incredibly engaging manner. I've put these in the wrong order actually. This is the pyramids in Martyr Square in Damascus, where cake shops, sorry, I've lost my track now. Syria's Ottoman and French history is celebrated in pastry and nuts and honey, which people buy in boxes and take away, sharing with cups of tea. This is the people peddling their produce in an incredibly engaging manner. The cups of tea are easy and are tiny and delicious and everywhere you go. The tea is brewed with lots of sugar, and when it's ready, fresh mint or sage is added. It's very fragrant and very refreshing, and a bloody good sugar hit when you're hot and tired. Like the British, the Arabs and the Irish, the Arabs tend to be really chatty. So sharing tea is an important social ritual which accompanies almost every transaction, particularly buying carpets. This should be slow and careful and involve as many carpets as you can cope with being rolled out in front of you, one on top of the other on the floor. And perhaps many cups of tea and coffee before you buy your carpet, and maybe even a repair job. One of my favourite destinations in Damascus is the glass blowers. I know of two and leave some room in my bag each time I visit to collect a bit more. The glass blowers pictured uses only recycled glass, and they're really happy for you to sit with them and watch the process and drink tea, or else you can spend hours rummaging through boxes of glass treasure. My mate Claire, who travelled with my brother and I, is a fantastic professional cook. My brother was really happy for Claire and I to do all the ordering in the restaurants, but he'd get quite frustrated when the food would finally arrive looking fantastic, and Claire would insist that we had to photograph it before we ate anything. The restaurants are as much visual as culinary treats. A number in the old city in Damascus are in courtyards surrounded by balcony gardens, featuring central fountains full of flowers and petals. And the waiters often look like they've stepped straight out of an Alibaba fairy tale. Now, because I'm a potter, I checked out a lot of old and new pottery in the region. A bit of a eureka moment for me was seeing an old Cypriot opium pot. These were traded a lot in the region back in the Middle Bronze Age, which is about 1500 BC. And if you turn this pot upside down, it's in the shape of a poppy. So, putting this all back together in my workshop in Wellington, I've made a number of small vessels which collectively are known as fruit. What I try to give this work is the sense of joy and humanity and colour that I always bring back from the Middle East, and that's my story, and thank you very much.